how do organizations fall into a vendor lock situation?
So I think for a lot of different reasons, and our lens is primarily in the very very large enterprise space. So as you're listening to this, kind of that's definitely my bias and where my experience is, and it may not necessarily hold true in different markets. But I think there are different reasons. I do think that there's a promise to kind of going all in with a vendor. We've definitely seen that with some of the larger MarTech vendors, just from a pricing perspective. Although I'll come back to where this can also be a risk, but we've definitely seen more competition on pricing, where it's more approachable to go kind of all in than to piecemeal it, which wasn't the case back in the day. If you were buying a separate email solution from a separate survey tool, from a separate analytics tool, each of those tools as point solutions could have an incredibly high cost to them. But now if you look at, we'll look at Adobe specifically. If you look at the point solutions as buying together in a package deal, it's almost cheaper. The whole thing's almost kind of cheaper than what I would have paid as individually, or it is cheaper. Like 10 years ago, what I had paid individually to put all these things together. So I do think that there is that draw of, if you go all in, the price is really, really attractive. Now, the risk to that is that you are all in, and to your point, the switching costs are quite high, and the risk is a vendor could come back and say, "Oh, by the way, on your next renewal, we're raising your rate 90%." You're like, "But we didn't add any new features." Well, I don't know, take it or leave it, so because they know, and so I would hope that vendors don't do that. I would hope that vendors, even though there's a little bit of comfort of having the lock in, they don't use that as an excuse to slow down innovation and continuing to put out new features. But it definitely can happen. I think the other promise is, and you mentioned, is connectivity. Is that we spend so much time trying to get all of these solutions to talk to each other, because we want our audience platform to talk to our testing platform, and we need that to talk to our analytics platform, and we need our analytics platform to talk to our email platform. And the idea is like, well, if I go all in with a Google or an Adobe or a Salesforce or a fill in the blank, then those things natively should work really well together. And we can debate whether that's a reality or not. But I think that's definitely one of the draws. And then I think the third piece of it is just efficiency. And this is the people problem, in that these teams we've talked about over and over again, these teams are drastically understaffed. And so I think the belief is that it's going to be much easier for us to go all in on Google, because we can hire a Google expert or so that can handle the entire stack. But if we piecemeal it, we got to go get someone that's really good at Google Analytics, someone that's really good at our ESP, someone that's really good that is good at our audience platform, which is something else, someone that's really good at Optimizely, which is a different platform, and we just can't go hire for all of those. So we want the efficiencies of having a smaller staff that's really an expert on that specific cloud vendor. So I think, a combination of attractive pricing, tight integration between point solutions, and then just efficiencies of being able to work with an agency or an internal team, or a combination that really has deep expertise in that specific cloud offering, I think is what has really attracted companies, especially in the enterprise space, to say, we're going to really go all in with one vendor rather than piecemealing kind of, quote, best of breed solutions to build a custom stack.